Player ratings. Right, let's get this over and done with. What an absolutely abysmal performance that was. Again, when Everton have the chance to make some room on the sides that are in and around us and go joint fourth, we absolutely bottle it. We don't show any fight, we don't show any desire, we don't show any passion, we don't show any spirit, which is something we've been banging on about for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Just utterly abysmal. Robin Olsen, I've given him a 6.5. I think he made a couple of big saves in the first half when Fulham were, attacking us, and it was blatantly obvious that Fulham were going to score and ultimately go on to win that game. I mean, anybody that couldn't have guessed that was going to happen, I seriously don't know, because from 15-20 minutes in, I knew exactly how that game was going to end. And Robin Olsen just prolonged the inevitable for, at 45 minutes. Like I said, I think he made a couple of good saves. I don't think he's at fault for either goal, to be honest. First one is awful defending, and the second one is bounced back off the post, and again, awful defending. Made a couple of good, decent saves and didn't have an awful lot to do other than that, so he's getting a 6.5. Ben Godfrey, I'm giving him a 6. You might think it's an over. It's too nice of a score. You probably think, you just like Ben Godfrey, so that's why you're giving him that score. I actually thought he was alright tonight. He covered for Mason Holgate on a number of occasions when Mason was just allowing his man to run in behind him. I don't think he's particularly at fault for either goal, although he probably could come back in on the second goal and cover the man when it bounces off the post. I think ultimately what we seen tonight was that centre-back partnership of Holgate and Godfrey is so inexperienced that they cannot play together. They can both play within the same team, maybe, with Holgate at right back and Godfrey at left back, or Godfrey at centre back, but certainly not as a centre back partnership, because there's not enough experience in there whatsoever, and they didn't help themselves whatsoever. But I thought Godfrey, as on his own individually, I thought he made a couple of decent tackles. He brought the ball out on a couple of times, and I thought he was okay. So he's getting a 6. Right, it drops dramatically from here. Mason Holgate's getting a 2. Worst performance in an Everton shirt for a long time. Had no control over anything that came into him. Left his man on a number of occasions. Ball just completely bypassed him on a number of occasions as well. A fault for me for the first goal. Completely allowed Maja to just run in behind him and slot it comfortably again. Didn't do anything for the second goal. Didn't make up his time. And not only that, but there was a number of times in the game when Mason was just completely bypassed. Be it balls going in behind him, people running off him. He just struggled massively today. And we've seen Mason's best performances in recent times come as a right back, and I think maybe that's where he should stay from now on, because he really struggled at centre half today. And when I say really struggled, I mean he was poor. He was very poor today. So Mason's getting a 2. Seamus Coleman's getting a 5. Had that little run in the first half, of course, where he makes a ball busting run down the right hand side from the halfway line, and as all the time in the world, it's the shot, and it's unlucky, to be fair. It bounces off the post. Maybe a Seamus Coleman of 5 or 10 years ago would have buried that one, but other than that, defensively, I think he really struggled again. And I don't want to make Seamus a scapegoat, because I absolutely love Seamus Coleman, and he's a fantastic servant for the club, and he's an Everton legend, but he just can't start game after game. He just can't start in the Premier League. Now, coming off the bench as an impact sub in the last 10 or 15 minutes, yes, he's useful in doing that, but starting games of football, he just hasn't got the energy to get forward. And like I said, he did on one occasion today and he was unlucky, but other than that, he just stops on the halfway line and turns around, and it just completely takes up all of the energy and all of the momentum from our attacking play. And I'm not saying that's completely Seamus' fault, because everybody else in attacking areas today was abysmal. But I just don't think he helped himself, and it's not his fault, to be fair. It's not his fault. It's clear as day. You can see that he's not up to it anymore. It's absolutely clear as day, and he shouldn't be in there. But again, he's getting a 5. Defensively, he was all right, but again, a lot of chances come down that left hand side for Fulham. Luca Dean, similarly, I'm giving him a 5. Didn't create much going forward. Not his usual self in terms of ball into the box, albeit didn't have Dominic Calvert-Lewin to play off of. And again, defensively, allowed them in a couple of times behind them, struggled to really deal with the press, struggled to really deal with the pressure from Fulham's attack, and ultimately I think the whole defence today just had a nightmare. Again, they had a number of opportunities, Fulham, and you could see that they were going to score. It was only a matter of time, and the goal is just abysmal to concede. But Luca Dean, like I said, he's getting a 5. Into the midfield then, Tom Davies, I've given him a 7, and you might think, what did Tom do that nobody else did? The one thing he did was kept hold of the ball really well. He brought us forward, he won fouls in dangerous areas, he nicked the ball off their attackers when they were floating around our our box, and he picked the ball off the defenders and he moved forward. And as soon as Tom Davies come off, which was one of the most baffling substitutions I've seen in a long time from an Everton manager, and I think it's the most baffling I've seen from Carlo Ancelotti, there just was nobody to pick that ball up from the back four then, and Doucoure wasn't doing it. He didn't have a great game. You know, Gomez was poor, Sigurdsson was poor, James, yes, is dropping to pick the ball up, but that means he's not further up the pitch creating. And I thought Tom actually had the best game of any Everton player, to be honest with you. I thought certainly in that first half he was the only one that looked like he was comfortable on the ball and looked like he really wanted it. So he's getting a 7. Andre Gomez is getting a 3. Back to Andre Gomez of 5 weeks ago, where again, far too slow on the ball, not keeping up with Fulham's attack whatsoever. Couple of nice passages of play here and there, but ultimately didn't do enough whatsoever. And that midfield of Gomez, Sigurdsson, Doucoure and Davies, ultimately, there was just no energy. And it's really frustrating because, you know, we've seen Gomez play in recent weeks, we've seen Sigurdsson play in recent weeks, and they've brought energy and they've brought a little bit of fight and a little bit of desire, and, you know, digging deep in. And Gomez has been excellent in recent weeks, as has Gylfi Sigurdsson, to be fair. But again, today we reverted back to the Gomez and Sigurdsson that we knew from 6 or 7 weeks ago, where they were just liabilities in the middle of the park, and that was the pair of them. In fact, they're both getting a 3. I don't really need to talk too much on Gylfi Sigurdsson either, to be honest with you, because he was just, again, didn't do anything, did he? I think he had 2 touches in the first half of the ball, and everything that come to him he struggled to control. He didn't create anything going forward. He's not a defensive midfield player for the start, so he wasn't helping out the back line. And I think Fulham just had a very, very comfortable night playing around us, to be honest with you. So Gomez and Sigurdsson are both getting a 3. James is getting a 5. Tried on a couple of occasions to play balls, played a really good ball into Andre Gomez when it was 0-0, and Gomez just fires the shot wide. He may as well just give it to Fulham and said, I'll have a goal kick, because it's a woeful shot. But other than that, I think he struggled to create today. James Rodriguez, again, we've seen him dropping into the defensive midfield position, which is so frustrating for a player who has got as much quality and ability as James Rodriguez has. Why he's picking the ball up on the edge of our box is beyond me. He should be receiving the ball in the middle of the park and going forward, not picking it up on the edge of our box and playing it to Gomez, who then just brings it back anyway. But again, just really, really struggled for me to create anything, to get anybody in the game, and I don't particularly blame James for that. But I think in the second half, he really, really quietened down. And to be honest, I just don't think he really wanted to be there in the second half, if I'm honest with you. So he's getting a 5. Richarlison's getting a... It's difficult to rate Richarlison. I've given him a 4 for the simple fact that I don't think he touched the ball more than 10 times tonight. But I don't blame him for that. He had no service whatsoever. Nobody was playing balls into him. Nobody was allowing him to run off of players and run into spaces. Nobody was doing anything for Richarlison. So as much as we can sit here and say, Richarlison done nothing tonight, he only touched the ball 10 times, what's he meant to do? Just magically pull it out of the air and you know, it just appeared in front of him? Or is he supposed to run to our defensive box and pick it up there? And then we're all saying, what's he doing there? He's the centre forward. Richarlison has every right to be frustrated tonight, and I'm frustrated for him. I'm absolutely frustrated for him because he had no service whatsoever. Nobody was playing it into him. Nobody was giving him the ball. Nobody was giving him time to run. Nobody was giving him space to run. And there's no wonder why, he only touched the ball half a dozen times in the game. And that's because there was no service to him whatsoever. But ultimately, he didn't do anything, so he's getting a 4. And Doucoure, 5. Shadow of himself, really, today. I think his passing was off. I think he struggled to pick the ball back up in the midfield. He wasn't the usual energetic Abdoulaye Doucoure that we know and love. He wasn't really getting forward. He wasn't doing his box-to-box role. He just had an off day today, really, and he was quite poor. And again, I think today was very much the same situation and discussion we were having after Newcastle, and that was every time we picked the ball up, which was very rarely because Fulham must have had about 80% possession, but every time we picked the ball up, we were making defensive errors, be it Holgate, be it Coleman, be it Gomez, be it Sigurdsson. We were just giving it back to them, and that was what cost us today. On to the subs bench then. Josh King, I've given him a 5.5. Obviously, he had the goal. 2 things he done in the game, really. One where he was played in, a good ball was played into him, and he had a little bit of a run on, and the defender ended up getting the better of him. I think he should do better, to be honest. I think if you're an attacker and you've got the ball coming into you and you're running at a defender, you can't just allow the defender to comfortably take it and go up the other end of the pitch. And second, he scored, but he was about 3 miles offside, so It doesn't really matter, does it? Ultimately, it wasn't like it was close or it was millimetres. He was quite clearly offside, so he's getting a 5.5. Bernard's getting a 5. Not going to go into him because, again, he was brought on with a massive task and he didn't do much, to be fair, but again, he didn't have the ball played into him an awful lot of times. And Michael Keane, have given him a 6. Shored the game up, but should never have been on the pitch for me. Not because he was poor or because he's a bad player, just a woeful substitution to make when you're losing a game of football against the side in the bottom 3. Why bring on a centre-half? I get Holgate was dreadful, but why not take Holgate off then and make a point of saying you've been awful, so you're coming off? What's the point in taking somebody like Tom Davies off, who had a decent game? Mightn't have been excellent, but he had a decent game, and leaving the problems on the pitch. And I don't usually rate Ancelotti when we lose, but I feel like that's a bit of a hypocritical move for me. And to be honest with you, I think tonight was a mix of the players and Carlo Ancelotti. I think the players embarrassed themselves by not showing any fight or any passion or any desire or any care. And I think Ancelotti watched 45 minutes of what was the worst performance in a long time. And A, didn't change it tactically, clearly, because we come out and done the same thing in the second half. And B, didn't make any physical substitutions. And that game, 3 substitutions should have been made at half-time for me. Bring Iwobi on for some energy, bring King on, bring Bernard on, whoever you're bringing on, you needed to make substitutions at half-time because that game was only going one way, and that's the way it went. We lose it, bottled it again, chance to take some room up on the teams that are above us, and we've just absolutely thrown it out the window. And I won't be surprised if we go on and put in an half-decent performance on Wednesday, but that equally makes this performance even more frustrating because, again, there's no excuse for that tonight. Absolutely no excuse. I'm going to go and watch QI or something entertaining to take my mind off it. That was awful. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Quick player ratings today, but to be honest with you, I can't be bothered talking about them for much longer. If you've enjoyed this one, leave it a like. Subscribe if you're new. All of that good stuff. We will have a game review tomorrow, even though you probably don't want to watch, listen to me talking about the game again. We will be live tomorrow, so join us for that one. Massive thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.